welcome to the next session of Wednesdays with Wayne. I am Wayne Frederick, your host, and thank you for taking time out of your very busy days. At least if we're being proactive, right? We are having very busy days. As I said, thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it as always. We are going to dig into session 2 today of the missing link of proactivity. I'm going to just open up with a few comments on where our industry is. Our industry is in a spot that none of us have ever been in before. You can't find a person in the real estate industry who says, oh yeah, this is just like whatever. It's not like, yeah, back in 78, I remember when this happened. At some level, for a lot of us, and I'm making I'm going to make this comment about the industry. It has forces going on that we've never seen before. We've seen a meteoric rise in interest rates. We see very little listing inventory. We have now kind of a divergence going on with the listings that we get. Either we have multiple offers and bidding wars, or things just sit. We have interest rate objections, honestly not coming as much from buyers now as they're coming from sellers, meaning, well, I would sell my house, but I would have to have this new higher interest rate, and therefore I'm just going to stay where I am. I'm going to stand pat. We have the announcement last week of a $1 billion plus play with D.R. Horton Homes and BlackRock, where they're going to go out and build all these homes just for BlackRock to have as rentals. We have all of these weird forces in the marketplace that we've never seen. And so you can't go to historical data and say this is how this is going to play out, right? So if this was like 2008, a lot of us could say, oh, wait a minute, we've been here. We know how this will play out. We don't know. So we have to go back to, we either have to go back to or have to go to what is the one thing we can always count on. And the one thing you can always count on is you and your ability to get up every day and do the things that you know you need to do. Now, we talked about it a little bit in the last couple of sessions. There is always this gap in our lives between what we know to do and what we actually do. And I call it the IB gap, the gap between what we know to do intellectually and what behaviorally we actually take action on. That's actually, to me, where procrastination comes from, right? I know what I should do, but that gap between the time I actually finally do it, we could call that procrastination. So the same things apply when it comes to us being proactive. Guys, we're in a marketplace, even though that we don't know the rules of it completely. You're in a marketplace you're probably going to see, in my opinion, for the next 3 years. There's not a market force, market data out there that tells us this thing is going to change. The people that are starting to feel stuck, and I use that word a lot now, actually are a lot of the seasoned people in the industry who are now discovering that the way they were doing this, it always used to work, and now it's not working as well. So the only way we can move away from that is to take some action. I posted on Facebook a couple of hours ago one of my favorite quotes from a gentleman by the name of Benjamin Disraeli, and the quote is, "Action may not always bring happiness, but there is no happiness without action." As my partner Dan Clark and I used to say, or Danny used to say to me, he's like, well, let's go do something, even if it's wrong. Let's get unstuck. Let's not sit here caught, we're stuck we're dead center is what he used to refer to it as, right? Let's go left, let's go right, let's go up, let's go down, let's go do something. That's where we are right now, guys. So I want to try to help bridge those gaps for you today. We talked about past client systems 2 weeks ago. I cannot overstate the importance of you staying in flow with your people more than you ever have before. If you do not do that, you are not going to be able to maintain relationships with your people, and they're going to go online. This is the new reality of the industry. The default setting for the consumer now, absent a strong relationship with a real estate agent, a very strong relationship, is to go online. Okay. Now, we don't want them to go online to find a real estate agent. If I've used you before, you want me to go back to you. And the only way I'll do that is if you have top of mind awareness with me. The other thing that we can do that we're going to talk exclusively about today is we can inject ourselves into the marketplace with people who are contemplating something, a transaction, based on an assumption that the vast majority of agents don't stay in contact with their clients. And it's true, they don't. We know they don't. I was in North Carolina last week doing a presentation, and I was at the hotel. I was tired, and I was at the hotel they had a restaurant, and I was like, I don't even want to go try to find a restaurant. I'm going to go eat at the hotel bar/restaurant thing, right? Kind of what you do when you travel. And inevitably, when you sit at the bar like that, you run into other people who are traveling, and the conversation always immediately turns to, so what do you do? What do you do? And so these two people sitting next to me, we started chatting, and they said, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm in the real estate business. I have a consulting company. I was here doing a presentation today. And they said residential or commercial, and I said residential. And one person looked at me and they said, oh, I bought a house a couple of years ago. Now, what you need to understand about me is, and I really am heading somewhere with this story, it's probably the longest opening ever of Wednesdays with Wayne. I ask the same questions of everybody when I have the opportunity to, whether I'm on the golf course and somebody mentions that they bought a house a couple of years ago, in this case, and I'll go down the same path with everybody. So I looked at this guy said, hey, I bought a house a couple of years ago. And I said, that is fantastic. I said, by the way, I have a question for you. Who was your agent? And he stared blankly and he goes, yeah, I don't remember their name. And I said, well, who was the company that you used? Yeah, I don't remember. And I said, well, obviously then you haven't referred other people to him. I said, was it a really good transaction? And he said, it was okay. He said, it wasn't great. And I said, when you decide to sell, he goes, well, we're not selling right now because we can't, we got to wait for this interest rate thing to settle down. Common theme of everybody now. But I said, when you go to sell, how are you going to find your agent? And he goes, oh, I'll just go online. And I'll just Google. The person sitting between me and him then turns around and says, I would have answered those questions completely differently. I said, really? And she said, yeah. She said, I would absolutely use my agent again. I said, I'm going to make a leap here, and I'm going to assume you hear from your agent a lot. She goes, I hear from my agent all the time. My agent's wonderful. I refer people to my agent all the time. Anybody mentions real estate, I'm like, you ought to use my agent. And she said, as a matter of fact, if I ever get transferred from where I live now, I would love to take my agent with me. All right. Now, here are two consumers that both done real estate transactions, but a vast difference in the way they're going to approach this the next time they do it. That's the key to this. All right. So in the case of the first gentleman, if you had the ability to try to figure out that he was about ready to do something, and we're going to get into those strategies in a second, you can inject yourself into the market, show value before he goes online. Now, in the case of the second person, it wouldn't matter how much you try to inject yourself with her, she's going to use the same agent again. We want to create the second scenario. We want to capitalize on the first scenario. So with that very, very long opening, and I apologize for the link, but I thought it was important, let's get into the missing link of proactivity, part 2. So we're going to talk active lead generation today, guys. That's what this is. How do you inject yourself into the market? What are those things that you could do that if you did them consistently and you understood the dynamics of it would lead to success? Now, I would contend this. If you're not doing something so we'll take past clients and we'll set that aside, and I'm just going to make an assumption. Y'all are crushing past clients. And if you're not, that's where your first work needs to be. Now, if you are crushing past clients, but it's not giving you the return that you want it to, you've got to inject yourself. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The only reason you wouldn't inject yourself into the market, the only reason you wouldn't go out and generate more leads, only two reasons to me. Number one, you don't really want to. You don't want to tell people that you don't want to, but I just don't want to do it. Or the second reason is you're not confident in doing it. Now, if you're in category one, you just don't want to do it, right? You've never had to do it, perhaps, and I've never done it before, and I'm not going to start now. Well, then there's not a lot we can do, right? Then I can't help you. But if you're in that second camp, and you're in that camp of, you know what, I intellectually know I need to do something every day to generate more business instead of waiting for the business to come to me by past clients. But I'm not confident there. I don't know the rules of the game. I don't know the models and things like that. That's what today's session is. All right. So if you're not confident in it, we're going to be able to help you today, I hope. If you just don't want to do it, you just don't want to do it. All right, so I'm making an assumption that you're on here. Those of you that are on here today, we have a very nice crowd. Those of you that are on here, you know that we need to be doing something. My job is to help you bridge that gap and build some confidence. So you've heard me talk probably about my 3 C's before, but I think this is really what it amounts to. So knowledge without action is useless. Action without knowledge is dangerous. And what I mean by that is just knowing the stuff and not doing it is pointless. But going out and trying to do something without understanding the dynamics, and when I say dynamics, I really mean models, well, that's pointless because you'll quit. All right, so here's how it works. Number one, we got to get crystal clear on what you're trying to do. And normally in our industry, quite honestly, that ends up being a monetary goal of some fashion, probably coupled with not losing your life, right? I want to make a lot more. I want to make more money. I want to do more business, but I don't want to lose my life in the process. And it also comes from a standpoint of getting clear on the things that we enjoy and the things that we know we would just never go do. And it's really just us sitting alone thinking about, if I had a magic wand, where would I wave it for my business? What is that business of your dreams once and for all? If you can, and it takes some work, right? I mean, it does. It takes some thought, sitting down by yourself, pad of paper, writing it out. It was a life changer for me 20 years ago. 25 years ago now. When I finally sat down and I wrote what drove me, that if time and money weren't the issue, what would I be doing? And what I wrote and got really clear on was that I would be teaching and training the key people in my life. And by you being on here today, I would put you in the group of the key people in my life, in the business and life discipline, so they would understand that a balanced life was what you were supposed to have. I've never felt like it was noble for real estate agents to lose their life in the pursuit of being a real estate agent. I just don't think it's right. I don't think it has to be that way. So I want you to have that same clarity. Well, once I got that clarity, once you get that clarity, here's the next thing. Now we have to build up our confidence, right? But only when we have clarity do we understand where we need to build our confidence. Without clarity, we're just chasing a bunch of stuff. We're everywhere and nowhere at the same time. But once you're clear, now we can go, well, if I'm going to go do that, I'm going to have to get confident here. And when we do those two things, boom, we get consistency. And without those two things, you'll never get consistency. But when we have clarity, when we have confidence, and when we have consistency, we're now taking the proper action for ourselves. So I'm going to run through various scenarios of prospecting today. I'm going to once again, we're going to set the past client system aside. Guys, you got to crush past clients in today's environment. You are competing against, and it's here, and it's been coming here for 20 years. You are now competing every day against a faceless, nameless competitor, and it's called the internet. Okay? It's the information that people can get on the internet. It's the valuation that they can pick up off of Zillow, and you have got to do more. People can get on the internet. All right. But when we have clarity, when we have confidence, and when we have consistency, boom, now we know exactly what our pathway is. Because the real estate business by its design is not consistent, it's a series of one-off deals. You and your activities have to be consistent. only reason we see our businesses go like this is because we're not consistent. In order to effectively generate business, you have to master presentation. You have to upgrade your presentation skills. Because in today's world, even though you're not competing against a physical person, you're competing against information that they have from another source. And you have to be able to defend your actions and your strategies against everything, things you don't even know. So presentation is such a huge issue. Presentation is also the only way you can convert any lead that comes in. So the truth and your success in generating leads, prospecting, that big P word that nobody likes, will greatly depend on your dialogue, your confidence, and your passion. So here's how this works. Number one, you got to be clear, right? You got to be clear on what you're trying to do. You have to have internalized dialogue. Now, what is internalized dialogue? Internalized dialogue is dialogue such that you can't keep it from coming out of your mouth. Okay, that you should be recording yourself doing presentations so that you hear what you're really saying to people. But internalized dialogue is something that you just can't stop. Every time you get in a situation, you say exactly the same thing. When you have internalized dialogue, now you have confidence. Now you get yourself in a situation where it's like, I just got to go find people. I know I can land the business. We refer to this as the mirror test, right? When you have everybody that passes the mirror test, when you look in the mirror and you say, I'm really good at this, you have internalized dialogue. You believe it, you trust in it, and that gives you confidence. So what does confidence give you? Confidence gives you a passion for what you do. You have to get to the point where you believe you're one of the best people in the world at this. Now, the revenue may not be showing up yet, but you know you're one of the best people and you have a passion. And when you have a passion, you'll have results. And ultimately, results lead to the habits that we create. See, we all have 24 hours in a day, right? We have some, and all your activities are in 24 hours. And we'll talk to you about the 3 kinds of time, and that every waking moment, we're in one of the 3 kinds of time, either playtime, pay time, or prep time. Really the only difference when you get into our industry, the person selling $1 million worth of property a year has the habits of someone who sells $1 million worth of property a year. The person who makes $1 million a year has a set of habits of people who make $1 million a year. So if you want to make $1 million a year, just mirror the habits of people that make $1 million a year, and then slice it up into the things where you believe you would be able to thrive. That gets into behavior tests and all kinds of things. And ultimately, we master those habits. I mean, there's a lot of people out there. I doubt if it's anybody on this call. But there's a lot of people in the industry. There's 1.5 million of us now, folks. There's a lot of people in the industry. They have mastered the habit of sporadic production. They've mastered the habit of low-level production. And weirdly, they'll defend it. I was having some conversations with some people this week, and I'm incredibly competitive as an individual. I just am, and I just don't understand the way I'm wired. And I'm not saying I'm wired the right way by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't understand going weeks, months in some cases, which we know the industry does. The average realtor sells about 4 houses a year. I don't understand only figuring out how to do this once a quarter. And then in some cases defending it. Well, I give incredible customer service. Well, okay, whatever, right? But it's all about our habits that we have mastered. When we're going to go out, here's the number one thing we got to do, and obviously this is the case right now, right? We're going to go after listings. All of your activities need to be going after listings, but one of the big words I want to talk to you about today is the leverage word. What we now have to start doing in your businesses is we have to be leveraging every piece of business we get, be they buyer or seller. But the best leverage point is listings. We know this, okay? This is not even a conversation. We just know that listings lead to more business. Absent a great past client program, you sell a buyer a house, you make a check, and it's over. But if you have the listing side, you have the ability to have someone else sell the house. That's a closed listing. And it's $200,000 in volume. You have the ability to sell it yourself. Oh, you doubled in the deal. You have the ability to take someone that contacts you as a result of that listing, or that you go out and contact as a result of that listing, and perhaps sell them something else. And maybe if you really got lead conversion down, perhaps you could acquire so many people that you could take those people out and sell them 3 other properties. It would be $1.2 million. At 3%, it'd be $36,000 versus 6. If you've been doing this business any length of time at all, you've experienced this. You have some listings that what I call spider web on you. It leads to a listing, leads to a call, which leads to a listing, which leads to another call and a listing and a buyer and this and that. And then we have some deals that are dead ends. This is why, back to what I said earlier, because the real estate business is not consistent, we must be consistent. Let's talk expires. Okay. Now I know everybody's saying, Wayne, there's no listings out there, there's no expires. Guys, there's going to be expires. Trust me, there's going to be expires. We're seeing this split in the marketplace right now. We're seeing some listings sell very, very quickly with multiple offers. We're seeing other listings sit. Those listings will end up being expired. All right. So I would contend, I looked in our marketplace yesterday, there were 7 expires yesterday in the Springfield, Missouri marketplace. Okay. Or the Southwest Missouri marketplace. There were 7 expired listings. Right. I changed my life personally with what I'm about to lay out to you. Right. So the question is, how much time should we be spending in this? Well, I think it's 15 minutes a day. But I think that you've heard me talk about this. I know we can change our lives 15 minutes a day. All right. If you'll commit to doing some kind of prospecting, one of these activities that we're going to talk about today, and just do it for 15 minutes, your life changes. You can find 15 minutes every day. Can't tell me you can't. Right. Look at what happens when you start doing it in dollar productive activities. In 15 minutes a day, you can dial a telephone 10 times. I've tested it. We could sit here and do it right now. Regardless of the time of day you choose, you will reach 20% of the people. Okay? Over time, you may have a week where you dial the phone 10 times a day, 5 days a week, and you don't get anybody. Don't quit. Just keep going. Right? So Pareto's law kicks in, the 80-20 principle. You'll reach 20% of the people. Now let's model this out, because I want you guys doing this with every one of these activities. I want you to model them out. If I dial a phone 10 times, 5 days a week, and 20% of the people answer, that's 10 contacts on average a week. Now, if I do that 50 weeks a year, that's 500 people that I've talked to. If 25% of those people, based on the initial conversation that I had, are in the marketplace for a different real estate agent because the first one didn't work, that's 125 appointments. If I list 80% of those, that's 100 listings. If 80% sell, it's 80 sales. At 200,000, it's 16 million. At 3%, it's $480,000 in production. This is the point I know where if you're in a group setting, y'all are looking at each other and you're rolling your eyes going, well, nice math, Wayne, but that doesn't really, I mean, come on. This is ridiculous, right? Yeah, maybe it is. So let's slice it up a little bit. Let's say this time that you only get a 12.5% of the people that you actually contact will let you come out and talk to them. You still are really great at the listing presentation, and you're still really great at sales. And so you get 80% on both of those numbers. You make $240,000, right? But that's still ridiculous, right? The eyes are still being rolled. So what if we slice it up again? What if we say that you only get 12.5% of the appointments, you only list 40% of the houses, but 80% of them sell? Still make an extra $120,000. but that's crazy too. I mean, maybe the eye rolls are a little less now. Slice it up one more time. 12.5% of the people that you contact let you come out and talk to them at some level, let you get into some kind of a process with them. That's 63 appointments, but only 40% of those people list, and only 40% of those sell. It's still an additional $60,000. What's the one thing on these three little models that never changed? Never changed was contacting an average of 10 people. Dialing a phone, not even contacting, dialing a phone 10 times a day, 5 days a week. That doesn't move. And that's what I mean by being proactive. We can't control ever in our industry the quality of the lead. Whatever you're doing, you cannot ever control the quality of the lead. All we can control are our activities in the endeavor of getting those leads. Maddie, I see we have a question. Do I need to stop and answer, or?
Yes. So they wanted to know, where can you get expired listings contact information?
So the two portals that are out there, and they're both subscriptions, okay? And I could go down the route of the don't call list and all that, but the Red X is one, and it's called literally the Red X is one of them, and the other one is Vulcan 7, okay? I cannot tell you which one is better than the other. Depending on your marketplace, Vulcan 7 is better in some, and the Red X is better in others, okay? Now, let me take this a step further. Specifically when we're doing the expires, you don't have to call them. You could just go knock on their door, okay? If you're wired to do that and you have the right materials, you could go knock on their door, okay? But understand that when we talk about being proactive, here's the difference. Here's the difference in mentality of people. Most real estate agents do some big deal in their career, and they post it all over social media. I just sold this, woohoo, look at me, this is awesome. And they get really excited about the big deal that they do and the amount of money they make, which obviously is exciting, but they get overly excited about it. The true professional says, wow, that was cool, that was awesome. I can't duplicate that. I can't make that happen again. The true pro takes that deal and says, that was wonderful, but I've got to focus and stay focused on what can I make happen. That's what we mean by being proactive. So the reason that expires, I'm such a huge fan of expired listings, and they're gonna come back around, guys. But we don't want them to be, you don't want to have expireds be dumped on the market and then you try to figure out the dialogue. If this is one of the paths you choose to go down. Understand the consumer, understand what they've been through. So anytime someone lists their house, the first week, they're getting the most showings they're ever going to get. We know this. The agent's in flow with them, calling them all the time. Hey, I'm going to bring your information sheets out. The stager's coming out. We got the photographer. We're doing this. We're going to hold it open. And everyone is very excited. After a month on the market, we're still seeing some showings. We're still in flow with you as an agent, but they're starting to feel a little rejected on the marketplace. Why did my house not sell? 3 months in, now the showing activity is falling off. The agent's not contacting them as much because they don't like to deliver bad news, shall we say. And the client starts to get depressed. And after 6 months, if it was a 6-month listing, now nobody's coming through their house. They haven't heard from their agent in a while, and they're kind of ticked off. And these are the people you need to call early in the morning. The one thing I will tell you about expires is if you're going to go down and call fresh expires, it's an early morning activity. You want to be one of the very first people they call, that calls them, okay, or they contact them, knocks on the door, whatever. The later you call in a day, the better you have to be on your scripts. You start calling a day one expired at 3 in the afternoon, you better be really good on the phone because they're going to chew you up and spit you out because they've gotten all these phone calls during the day. So think about the mentality of a seller. I was really excited when I listed my house. Now I'm just ticked off. Nobody's coming through my house. But the day it expires, all these agents call and say they think they have a buyer for my house. All right. So that's kind of the mentality. Your goal is to get from the phone to the house as soon as you possibly can. Now, if you're going to call old expireds, you can do that any time of day. Okay, so if you really wanted to double down massively on an expired program, you'd be calling the fresh ones early in the morning. You'd be backtracking around the ones from a couple of 3 weeks ago, maybe a month, 2 months ago, and you'd be checking in with those people to see if their situation has changed. You'd use exactly the same dialogue with just a little tweak, and here's the dialogue. Here's the deal with active prospecting, guys. On all of these activities, you have to own your opening line. Whatever your opening line is, you have to own it. Now, this particular dialogue, I invented 20 some odd years ago. Okay, I know this dialogue works. Hi, this is Wayne Frederick with Remax. I noticed your home showed up as expired this morning, and I was wondering, are you going to be relisting with the same agent or possibly interviewing any new agents? That's the dialogue, right? So what we're doing is we're making an assumption here. You're either going to relist with the same person or you're going to be interviewing people. I'm not giving you the option of taking your house off the market or selling it yourself or any of that. You had an agent, they didn't sell your house. Are you going to be talking to new agents? Because I would like the opportunity to talk to you. We have a question.
Someone wants to know how to obtain the contact number.
The Red X.
Yep.
The Red X or Vulcan 7 will give you the numbers. You have to do some research, but if you had one of those programs, it will give you phone numbers for these people. It'll give you business numbers, anything that's tied to their name. You don't have to necessarily use the Red X, but it's just easier if you use the Red X or Vulcan 7 in order to get the numbers. Okay. The other thing is, these companies all grew out of the don't call list. As one of my agents who we worked with so much on prospecting, he's such a great story, a guy named Chuck Rumpfeld. He came to me when the don't call list came out years ago and said, "Is there a no door knocking list?" And I said, "No, there's not." He said, "I'm just going to go knock on their door." Okay, if you're wired that way, that's awesome. If you ask those initial questions, here's the only possible answers to those questions. Okay, number one, we're not going to relist. Well, if you don't mind me asking, what about your situation has changed? In other words, kind of play dumb with them and go, yesterday you were trying to sell your house, now you're not. What happened? What changed? Second thing they can say is, we've already relisted. Great. Did you relist with the same agent or a new agent? Have a nice day. Because if you've already really literally filled out the paperwork, obviously we can't be talking to those people. That's solicitation. Number three, we're going to interview people. Here's the next question. What do I need to do to be one of the agents that you interview? Their number one answer will be, I don't know. Number four, we're going to try it ourselves. Great. What led you to that decision? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the experience you just had? And number five, we're not going to relist for a while. Great. But when you do relist, will you be interviewing new agents? What would I need to do to be one of those agents? And when are you planning to relist? And these are all first level questions that are going to get us into where the real meat is, which is the next level of questions. The other thing that they might say is, we're not sure. So I guess this would be number 6, which I would say, so there's a chance you'll be interviewing people. Well, yeah, I guess. What do I need to do to be one of those people? All we ever want, guys, is an interview. If you pass the mirror test, if you look in that mirror and you know you're good, all you ever want is an interview. Just let me sit down with you. Let me share with you what I have and see if it resonates with you. From this point on, the script is exactly the same. Well, if you don't mind, could I ask you a couple of more questions? Do you know any reason why your home didn't sell? And then they're going to tell you whatever the answer is. I noticed you were priced at X. How did you come up with that price? The number one answer repeatedly year over year over year from sellers is, the agent told me it was worth that. Did you get a lot of showings? And we got a few, right? What was the feedback from the showing? The number one answer is, I don't know. Did any of the buyers who came through your property buy another one? I don't know. Did any homes like yours sell while you're on the market? I don't know. Would the answers to those questions be helpful? Yeah, that would have helped me a lot. And the bottom line is, agents are not good at giving people feedback. And even when we give people feedback, we don't give them feedback that's actionable. All right? We don't ask the proper questions. The questions that we need to be asking on feedback, on showing, but the real question is, are we one of the top 3 houses your buyer looked at? If not, why aren't we? If we are one of the top 3, what do we have to do to become number 1? Now I'm going to relay that information back to the seller. By the way, guys, it is impossible to over-communicate to one of your sellers. I learned this from calling expireds. The biggest rub that expired listings have is they never heard from their agent. Explain to them that if they hire you, they'll no longer have these issues. The goal is to get from this call to the home. After they've answered your questions, close for a drop-off. Can I just drop off a packet of information to you that tells you more about me and the way that I work, so that if and when you begin interviewing agents, perhaps I could be one of those agents? This is called the law of reciprocity. Sure, I guess. Great. I'll have that out to you today. By the way, sometimes the lockbox would be on the house. Would it be okay if I just went ahead and went through the house if the lockbox was still there? What you're trying to do is get a packet in their hands, and then you're going to call them back and follow up on the packet. Hey, this is Wayne. Did you get the packet I left for you? Do I look like the kind of person you'd want to talk to? Great. When can we set a time to get together and go over the information? If your packet's strong, the answer is going to be a resounding yes. Now, this means you have to have a pre-listing packet, which we've talked about in other sessions. Every day you wake up, you make the calls, you get the packets in their hands. You track what's going on. You will start acquiring this business. Let's say that you don't want to mess with the whole don't call list. You can use exactly the same dialogue knocking on someone's door. Hi, I'm Wayne Frederick. I noticed your listing showed up as, say it's an older expired, right? I noticed your listing showed up as expired a couple of weeks ago. I was just in the neighborhood. I was just wondering, are you going to be relisting the house with the same agent, or are you possibly going to be interviewing agents? And I've got my packet with me. Oh, we're not sure what we're going to do yet. Well, so there's a chance you might be interviewing people. Yeah, I guess. Well, hey, tell me about the process that you went through. Did you get a lot of showings on the house? What was the reason it didn't sell? Did the people buy something else, right? Those questions. When you get those questions internalized, you could literally go into any marketplace in the U.S. and acquire expired business. The dialogue, honestly, is that strong, okay? So, got to have the materials, but what if we just did that every day? Would we generate business? Of course we would. All per the model. Let's say that you're like, hey, Wayne, I am not wired to knock on someone's door. I am not wired to make phone calls. Sorry, buddy, not going to do it. That's okay. Got another strategy for you. If you've got a really cool pre-listing packet, take your pre-listing packet and just start mailing it out with a handwritten sticky note on the front of it that simply says this: sorry your home didn't sell, maybe I can help, Wayne. Your target cost on these should be around $4 a piece. If we did this for 500 homes, we'd spend $2,000 a year. If you've got a strong packet, guys, I have to assume that if you got 500 of those in people's hands, a certain percentage of these people are going to call you, and you're going to have a huge return on investment. This is actually not a theory. I had an agent that I worked with years ago when I was brokering, and she said, I really want to go after expireds. And I said, well, you and I both know you're never going to call them and you're never going to knock on their door. But you have an unbelievable pre-listing packet. Let's try this. And so she launched this program. She listed 6 expireds in 3 months. And then for some weird reason, she stopped doing it. Got busy, whatever. And that's what I'm trying to drive home on all of these sessions that we do. You have to have things running in the background that you just always go do. All right. So if you have a cool packet, then this is another strategy for you. You're going to need a great packet one way or the other. You're going to need a great pre-sale pack one way or the other. So Mike Ferry said years ago, if you're a real estate broker and you think your agents are in the office too much, just put a FSBO sign in front and your agents will never come into the office again. There is something about going up and knocking on the door or calling or contacting a for sale by owner that makes all of us take a second glance, right? I mean, I know it. You pull up in front and you're like, oh, do I really bring value? What am I going to say to these people? I'm going to try to help you through that dialogue. Mary Coffey has raised her hand.
All right, Mary, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, Wayne. I'm wondering
Hi,
if
Mary.
you can review the core of what should be in the pre-listing packet.
We will send you if we haven't already. Maddie, did we send it? We didn't. It'll be in the information y'all receive after this session. We'll send you a sample packet.
Thanks.
For you to review. Okay. Okay. So let's talk for sale by owners. Perhaps this is a path that you want to go down. Now, admittedly, is it a tougher book of business? I don't know if it's a tougher book of business. It has a different dynamic. We're on the expires, we're trying to go from the call to the house and get this thing as soon as possible. It's almost like a go for the throat approach. For sale by owners, it's a longer process, and there's dynamics to why that is, right? It's a 10-week gig. I mean, honestly, it's a 10-week gig, and here's why. They don't think they need a real estate agent. And we're seeing a lot of this in the market. I'm seeing more for sale by owners where I live than you normally do, because people thought the marketplace is incredibly hot and I can just do this on my own. We're seeing less of them now than we did in 2021, right? Because the market did have that kind of steam. So here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, week one, open the door to the relationship, and that is a face-to-face meeting. So if you're hesitant to go meet people face-to-face, my FSBO plan is probably not going to be for you. I'm going to show you the dialogue in a second and tell you why it works. Week two, you're going to hand deliver them a for sale by owner package, which we are going to send you a rough sample of today or by the end of the week. Number three, you're going to give them a CMA the next week. And the fourth week, you're going to give them a vendors list, the people that you use, because they're probably getting closer to selling their house in theory. Weeks 5 and beyond, you're going to call them. All right. And you're going to call them every week until they list with you or they sell it, or they list it with somebody or they sell it. It's that willingness to make those phone calls and be consistent is what wins the day with this particular book of business. And here's why. 50% of the people will go, well, I guess I don't have any listings. I guess I'll go see if I can find it for sale by owner today. And they'll go knock on the door one time maybe, or send a mailer out one time, and then they'll quit. 75% of the people, or conversely, only 25% of the people will do something for 2 weeks. Only 10% of the people will do something for 3 weeks. And virtually nobody does it for 4 weeks with no activity. And that goes back to, whether you have a model or not. So I'm going to tell you up front, this model is a 10-week gig. If you don't want to board on for 10 weeks, don't start it. I will make this promise to everybody. Anyone who does this consistently for 10 weeks and doesn't get any business, call me and I will completely remove this section from Wednesdays with Wayne. I've never had anybody do that. Now that either means one of two things. Either A, it always works, or B, nobody really does it for 10 weeks. I will tell you, Chuck Rumfelt, my good friend Chuck, he did this. He did come to me about 8 weeks in, and he said, okay, here's the deal. I've got 8 listings now. He was a brand new agent, by the way. First he came to me and he said, I said, you just got to stick with it. And then all of a sudden he started chunking off all these listings. And this one lady called him, and he would call all of his for sale by owner people every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. That was his call-in time. And this lady called him on Monday and said, don't call me tomorrow night. And he said, have I done something wrong? And she said, no, just come out here and list my house. And so I told him, I said, look, you got to ask her why. I want to know why. And so he did. He asked her, and she said, I'd love to tell you that I read all your stuff through and through and all of that. She said, I never did. She goes, but you're the only guy still here. Everybody else is, I don't hear from any realtors anymore. So I guess you're the guy. That one house generated, it was just like a $70,000 house, but it spider webbed on him. And he made $28,000 to $30,000 off that one house because it kept leading to a call, which led to yet another listing and another one and another one. So for sale by owners, longer runway, no doubt about it. Don't ever try to do more than 3 for sale by owners in a week. Okay. Don't go out and contact like 10 of them in a week, because that means in week 10, if none of them have listed yet, you have to contact 100 people with phone calls, and you're not going to do it. So no more than 3 a week. That's the model. Okay. Goal of visit 1, simply to put a name with a face. In my world, you can't go to any of the rest of this until you've met them face to face. So this may mean you have to go by their house a lot of times, different times of the day. I will tell you, Chuck determined 10 a.m. on Saturday mornings. That was his day. That was his morning. He went out and found new for sale by owners, 10 a.m. to 12 on Saturdays, because they were home. All right. The whole goal is for them to put a name with a face. Do not go in and knock on their door and have them come to the door. Hi, I'm a realtor. I think I might have a buyer for your house. Can I come in and take a look? That is what a lot of people that are doing this book of business, that's what they try to do. So don't do that. One rule of our industry is when we see everybody doing one thing, just don't do it. Go the other way. Hey, it's Wayne Frederick with RE/MAX. I was driving and noticed a sign in your yard, and I wanted to stop by, introduce myself, give you a card, let you know if you ever need anything. It'd be my pleasure to help you. Thank you very much, and have a great day, and turn around and walk away. Like literally, you're almost taking a step backwards as you're handing them the card. And you can morph this dialogue in the beginning however you want to. You have to own it, though. You can't stammer and stutter. I was on my way to an appointment and saw your sign in your yard. Totally respect what you're doing, but you may have a question from time to time that comes up. Here's my card. Love to help you if there's any way I could. Thanks. Have a nice day. Some people will say, don't you want to see in my house? No, not really. If you run into anything, be happy to try to help you, because what you know is you're coming back next week. So the goal is business card, name with a face. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Okay. Visit number 2. It just happened to be in the neighborhood and I thought I'd drop this by. It's your for sale by owner book. If they happen to come to the door, how did it go this week? Is there anything I can help you with? If you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to call. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. The cool part of this process is this. After you've done face-to-face one time, if you go to drop off the packets a second time and they're not there, slip it under the mat, hide it somewhere, leave them a voicemail, right? You're going to know their phone number because it's going to be on their sign. And somebody years ago asked me, how do I find their phone number? It's literally on the sign in their yard. And then send a thank you note saying, hey, I stopped by. Sorry I missed you. Hope you're doing well. If there's anything I can help you with, let me know. This is exactly the protocol Chuck Rumpfelt used to go from a brand new agent who knew no one in Springfield, Missouri, to making $125,000 in commissions in his first 12 months. It was all for sale by owners, and he did exactly this. This was all his book of business. He became a master of the for sale by owner. Visit number 3, I was thinking about you the other day, and I did a price analysis for you. I ran a CMA for you. Is there anything I can help you with? Again, if they're not there, slip it under the mat, leave them a voicemail. Hey, I was running a CMA for another client. Thought I'd go ahead and run you one too. Have a nice day. Little thank you note. Sorry I missed you. Week 4, since you're getting closer to selling your house, I thought this list would help you. How did it go? Is there anything I can help you with? And give them a list of everybody that you use, all of your people. Again, message if they're not there, thank you note. You only have to get face-to-face one time. If you're leaving the information, put it in a large envelope. Do not put real estate information on the envelope. Use a nondescript manila envelope. The reason for this is if you put real estate information out there, you will have people take your stuff. I'm just going to tell you. If there's anybody else working this model or working this book of business, you'll have people take your stuff. It happened to me. It happens, violates code of ethics, whatever, it happens. Regardless of whether you meet them face to face or just drop off the information, always follow up with a thank you note. Sally, great to see you again. Sorry I missed you. Hope you find the information I gave you helpful. Have a great week. 5 weeks and beyond, Wayne with Remax, just touching base. How'd it go? Anything I can help you with? If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to call. Remember, your goal is to follow up every week until they either list it with you or somebody else, or they sell it. This is simply what separates us. This is injecting yourself into someone's process. This is upsetting the seller's normal course of action, and that's what we need to really, really be working on. Somebody will say to you, I will promise you they'll say this, I don't know why you're doing this. I'm not going to list my house. I told you repeatedly, I'm not going to list my house. What's in it for you? Hopefully you found the stuff I gave you to be of value. That's a win. If you happen to run across somebody who wants to sell their home and doesn't want to go for sale by owner, maybe you'll think of me. If you do that, that's a win for me. So you see, I just think there's value in me being in the marketplace every day and just meeting people that are also in the marketplace. Swear to you, this is true. Chuck had 3 people in his first year who sold their houses themselves, but referred him to their friends. And they said, this guy's different. He's not like the average realtor. Most people who go for sale by owner will tell you they're doing it because they're trying to save the money. Under further question, what they will admit to is, it's not really the amount of money that y'all charge. It's I never could figure out what you did to earn it. That's why I'm doing it myself. Okay? So, buyers, quick hits, for sale by owner, longer process. Alternative approach to FSBOs. Hey, guess what? Same thing. Simply mail all the information with handwritten notes. Hope you're finding this information helpful. Please call me with any questions. You don't ever have to go to their door. You don't ever have to visit them, right? So we always used to, Carl Sanfilippo and I talk a lot about this. It's like, it's either hustle or spend in our industry, right? You either get out there and you hustle up business, or you have to spend money. And as Ryan O'Neill said, a huge agent in the Minneapolis area, when we were talking to him about it, he goes, well, if you really want to crush it, it's hustle and spend, right? It's actively go out and find people and spend some money to promote yourself. But you could do this program if you're willing to spend the money to do it, and your materials are spot on and they're cool, make me stop and want to take a look at them. But no calls, no visits. You could do that as well. Talk open houses. The mathematics of open houses. If you do open houses 50 weeks a year, never count on more than 5 people coming through. That's 250 potential buyers. We'll acknowledge up front that 50% of the people, they're not really a buyer, right? They're not a buyer. So it's only 125 potentials. But let's say that 25% of those people let us come out and talk to them because we have great materials that we've given them at the open house, right? 25% will let us talk with them. 50% of those will agree to hire us, and 70% of those will buy. 11 buyers in the course of a year at 200 is 2.2. It's 66,000, and that's about $660 an hour while you're in the open house. So we can't say they're not dollar productive. Can say is agents, as a general rule, are relatively ineffective at doing them. Here's the keys to it. Number one, you've got to have a house that's priced right if you want to maximize the play on open houses. You want it in a high traffic area, and you want it to show well, and you want it to be a new listing. Open houses are the ultimate way for you to try to double end your own listings. 4 days before the open, put up directional signs. Figure out who the move-up neighborhood is for your house, right? So if it's an entry-level house, your move-up neighborhood may be in an apartment building that's close, or some duplexes that are close. Invite those people to the open house. If you have a larger family home, figure out, and we used to do it. Well, I learned this from another guy. Do it by elementary school. That you have the move-up house. Like I've got a 3-bedroom, bath and a half now, and I've got a couple of kids, and they go to the elementary school. We really need more space. mail cards out to those people and invite them to the open house. It will allow you to pick up some listing leads on the back end. Preview the competition, one price range above and one price below the actual house that you're in, so that you can talk about more than just this house. Have MLS sheets of everything that's out there so you can get yourself into a better conversation. Write and place advertising if you need to. I did an analysis years ago. We could really never see more or less traffic on any kind of advertising that went into open houses. It was really all about the house. Make sure on the open house you get there early, and I don't mean 10 minutes till 2 for a 2 o'clock open house. Get there at like 1:30. Okay? The reason being, if you've ever had this experience, you pull up to your open house and there's people waiting for you to get there. They're the best people you'll ever see. And what agents, the way we mess this up is we're in there turning on the lights, trying to get everything ready, and the best people we will ever have a chance to talk to are the ones that are sitting there waiting, and we don't get in a conversation because we're doing other stuff. We're fully prepared for the person that comes walking in 5 minutes before the end of the open house. They would statistically be the worst person that ever came to your open house. Have MLS sheets of the competition in the neighborhood. Have buyer criteria sheets, the ones that we've talked to you about in the other classes. Have those ready to go. Have buyer and listing questionnaires. Have all your pre-sale materials out. Right? Thank you notes to all attended. Your goal is to get into a great conversation with as many people as you can and get one person to meet with you and get into your buyer process. This is a sample from a client of mine from a few years ago, where I got her to put all of her information out at an open house. You want to have materials because materials allow you to get into a better conversation faster with people, and they differentiate you. So if, as I'm coming through your open house, are y'all in the market for a house? Yes, I am. What's the process you're using? By the way, are you going to be paying cash, or are you going to be getting a loan? Do you have a house that you need to sell first, or are you renting, or are you going to keep your house for a rental, right? All these things that are on that buyer questionnaire that we sent y'all. Oh, you're in the marketplace to buy a house. Well, here's a buyer packet that I have. It tells you more about me and the way that I work. I would love for you to interview. If you're interviewing people, I would love a chance to get the interview. So just position yourself for success in this prospecting realm. This is what people aren't doing. And they're certainly not doing it at scale. Anytime we have any conversation with someone, you've heard me talk about this before, 4 things that we have to weave into every conversation. Number 1, do they have a desire to buy a house if they're in an open house? Not everybody does. Do you have a desire to purchase a house? Sometimes they're just bored. Oh, no, we're the neighbor. We're just looking. Actually, statistically, half of the people have a desire. Number 2, can they buy? Paying cash or getting a loan, right? Stop asking people if they're pre-qualified. We've talked about this before. Are you paying cash or are you getting a loan? If you're getting a loan, have you been into a lender yet? Do you have a lender you'll be using? I've got a lender. I'd be happy to have them call you if you want me to, right? What's your current situation? Where do you live? Do you own or do you rent? Oh, well, we rent. Well, are you on a lease or month to month, right? I invented a word 4 or 5 years ago called being progressive. It's the confluence of being polite yet aggressive. I've discovered over my years that you can ask anybody just about anything as long as you're polite, and they'll answer it. So don't be afraid to ask the questions. Next level, well, would you like some help with the process? It's no more verbose than that. Would you like some help? And then lastly, any way I could interview for the position? Let me give you some information about me. If you don't mind, could you give me your information so I could follow up? If you give them the information that you have, they're more likely to give you their information. Again, law of reciprocity. If you get 4 yeses, you got a lead. Book an appointment for a listing or buyer consultation or both. Again, guys, remember the NAR stat. 80% of the people only talk to one agent before they list. Deliver the appropriate materials for the situation, either in person, at the moment that they come walking in, via email or via mail. You're either handing them the packet at the time, you're mailing it to them, or you're emailing it to them. Send a thanks for meeting you video to everybody. I've again, traveled all over the country. Very, very few people are doing this. This will differentiate you, which is the big game. Just a quick little video. Thanks so much for coming into my open house today. Gosh, I look forward to having further conversations with you. I'll be in touch. Wayne. You physically hand them the materials, right? Send this quick little video within 15 minutes after they leave. We're trying to differentiate ourselves at first contact. That's the shift in the marketplace. Talk geographic farming for a second. If you've got some money to spend, here's the model on a geo farm. Research neighborhoods that fit the following criteria. 5% of the rooftops, those people are moving every year. No matter what, they're moving. There's no dominant agent on the listing side. Assume a 20% capture rate over time. And we will define that time as 12 months. Budget for a 12-month consistent mailer at $1 per mailing in their hand. It's a postcard, right? You're going to commit to mailing to this group of people for a year. We're going to spend the $1 every time. So here's the mathematics of it. Say we have a 500 rooftop subdivision, $200,000 average value. You go into the multi-list and you figure out 5% of those houses sold last year, 25 sales. And when we look at the listing agent side, there wasn't a dominant agent. There wasn't one person that would seem to show up often. If there is, that means they're already farming that neighborhood. 25 sales, and assuming you get 20% of those over a year, that's 5 deals. At 200,000 to $1 million, at 2.8% commission is 28,000 in income. You will have spent $6,000 because you'll be mailing out 500 pieces a month at $1 a piece for 12 months. If I came to you today and said, hey, I got this deal. If you'll invest $6,000, I'll give you $28,000 at the end of the year. It's a 367% return on investment. Would you do the deal? Of course you would. This is the way I want you to look at all these activities that we take on. Here's the deal. You got to have the cash flow. You got to have $6,000 set aside for this to consistently mail to the same group for 12 months, or don't start it. Do not start it. Save your $6,000 and go somewhere else with it. Save your money and go somewhere else with it. Okay. As far as the content of what we're going to do for the people, you're going to do a market analysis. You're going to tell them how many houses have sold, what they sold for. We're going to start giving them value about their neighborhood. We're going to give them overall value. Keeping Current Matters obviously is a great resource for just real estate information. You're just going to become the agent that they think about. The second leg of my personal stool was 2 huge geographic farms. So I was calling expireds every morning, and I had 2 geographic farms.
Wayne, we've got a couple of questions here.
Okay. Yeah.
Someone would like to know, what app do you do this video in?
What app do you use?
Mm-hmm.
I have an iPhone. I would just turn on my video camera, flip it around, and shoot me a video, and then save it and email or text it to people.
Okay. And then another person was
It's
wanting
an
to know.
impromptu. Listen. It's an impromptu deal. It doesn't have to be this. You don't have to use Vimeo. If you want to do something more higher quality, we use Vimeo. Maddie could speak more to that than I could because I send her the videos. But this is just an impromptu. Hey, I just want you to put a name with a face, right? So let's say, and we're going to talk purchase business here. Let's say that you're doing a Zillow play and you just had a conversation with someone and it was a really nice conversation. It seems like there's some traction. Bam, quick little video. Thank you so much. Hey, it's Wayne Frederick. We just got off the phone with each other. Just wanted you to be able to put a name with a face. I look forward to further conversations with you. Just shot with your phone. Nothing more, nothing less.
Great. And our other question was, how do you get the information? I think they were referring to your model for the number of roof houses and the average price of the home.
If that's what you're referring to, excuse me, you just got to sit down and start churning through MLS. You just got to run a market analysis for a subdivision, and and you gotta acquire some numbers. I don't know if Julie Dalton's on here today, down in Texas, but Julie's a client of mine, and she has been geographically farming her area now for, I guess, a couple of years. After a bunch of people told her not to because it's a newer subdivision, and gosh, that just won't work. And when she ran the numbers, it was very apparent there were resales going on. There was no dominant agent, and she has now positioned herself as the dominant agent in that subdivision. Actually, she's on vacation this week, so I don't think she is on here. So it's all about the math. Listen, you guys, you're going to have my email address, okay? If you want to run these numbers and then you want to send them to me, I'll help you dig your way through the numbers, okay? It's just simply like if you were running a CMA for a house in that subdivision, we just want to see how many are selling, okay? What's the key to handling purchase business? Number one, it's great internalized dialogue. Do not go out and buy a bunch of leads if you do not have the ability to convert them. Conversion of leads is 100% internalized dialogue. It's having a better conversation with people than what they expect. It's showing your professionalism at the very, very beginning. That is the key to this. Here's the incoming dialogue. In order to effectively handle sign calls, ad calls, Zillow calls, whatever, understand it is a give and take. It is not about you babbling information about the house. It is about you asking the proper questions. You have to have, guys, in this marketplace and forever, we always needed this. Got to have the buyer and listing questionnaires with you. You've got to have them with you at all times. Until this stuff is so rote for you, this is what is helping people convert business. And once you have that down, then it's like fire up the bombers. Give me leads from everywhere. I can figure out who's going to do something and show them my value because I have the right materials. Always remember, you're not the only agent they're talking to. If you handle the phone call in the same way, you'll get thrown into that real estate agent bucket. And the bottom line is the public is on guard about real estate agents. All the stats tell us this, right? To handle the incoming call effectively, you got to understand it's a give and take. When they ask you a question, answer it. Here's the hard part. Always follow up with a question of your own. And it takes practice. It takes practice for you to follow up with a question of your own. Never ask for their name until 30 to 45 seconds into the conversation. Never lead with, are you working with an agent? Never, ever ask people, are you pre-approved? Ask them instead, by the way, when you purchase, will you be paying cash or getting a loan? Okay? And don't lead with either one of those questions. Ask them what they would like to know about the property they're contacting you about. And then when you answer it, let's say, well, I know, how much is it? Well, it's priced at $385. Is that in your price range? Well, no, not really. We weren't looking to spend that much. Okay, what is your price range? Well, my price range is only $250. Okay, well, like I said, this one is $385. Now, this one is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Is that what you're looking for? Yeah, we'd like to have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, but we can only go up to $250. Okay, well, if you don't mind me asking, when you purchase, will you be paying cash or getting a loan? And then here we go, right? What's your current situation? What's this? What's that? By the way, what process are you using to find properties? And then at this point now, after we've had the give and take, are you working with an agent? Gosh, I would love to interview to help you. Would you like some help? And then here we go. Boom, have a great conversation. I've got some information I would love to send out to you. As soon as I hang up the phone, bam, they get a text message. And it's a video. Just wanted you to put a name with a face. Thank you so much for calling me today. All right. There's copies of the questionnaires. If you don't already have them, you will have them at the end of this week. Take them, put them back to back, laminate them. I know this is old school, but so be it. Laminate them, have them with you all the time. Print off multiple copies, have them everywhere, so that every time that phone rings, you can have an unbelievable conversation with these people. That is the key to being able to prospect. That is the key to being able to convert leads when they come in. All about dialogue. Dialogue, guys, is more important today than it's ever been. The more people go online, the more important your dialogues are. And again, the 4-step qualification process, this just needs to be ingrained in you. So this, I know this will not play, but this is an example. If you guys are not using video cards, I'm going to hold this up, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not. I'll try to hold it up like in front of me.
I was going to say, if you turn off your background.
Meet with me next week. Listen, we've sent this packet to you, give you some information about our company, tells you a little bit more about us, and we dig into the details when we get together next week. But I just wanted to let you know how excited I am that you're taking time out of your day to meet with me. So have a great week. I'll see you next week. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Guys, if you really want to ramp it up, and I know this thing disappears, if you really want to ramp this thing up, take a look at video cards. They're not cheap. I'll just tell you, they're about 20 bucks a throw. Maddie will send you the information on where we purchased them from. It's a company called Cheer Trend. They're out of China. But it allows you to customize them, and it will really differentiate you. Now, you wouldn't want to just send these out willy-nilly to people, but you would want to, if you've had a great conversation with someone, utilize a video card, okay? And here's a copy. I did play.
Hi, I'm Carl Sanfilippo, broker owner of Remax First Realty. By now in this video, you can probably tell I'm not a typical broker. First, I just want to say thank you for agreeing to meet with me. And I can't wait to tell you more about our company and learn more about you and your real estate career. I've included some information here that I thought you'd find helpful. Here's the book of benefits, what you get with being part of the Remax First office. Again, really looking forward to meeting with you, and I'll see you soon.
So that is in a recruiting setting for Carl, but if you contacted Carl about joining his office, you would get all the materials that you see there on the left. You would get this video card. And this is one of the reasons, not that he doesn't do a fabulous job, but this is one of the reasons why, since we've been working together, his office has literally grown tenfold. Because he's got really great stuff for people. And we need to take that same thing for you guys, right? Really cool materials. I can't overstate the importance of having great materials. Talk about buyer leverage, right? So many people are out there right now saying, Wayne, I've got buyers, but I can't find them anything. I can't find them anything. Stop trying to use multi-list. What a buyer really wants you to do is go find them what they want. So what if you started doing this, right? Once they hire you, this gets into the buyer presentation class we did a few weeks ago, make the promise that you'll direct mail to specific neighborhoods defined by the buyer. You drive the neighborhood together, and I'll have you point to houses. And I'll contact those people and see if we can get them to sell. And I'll canvass other realtors on properties they have coming onto the market. This allows you to take a buyer, and try to keep them out of a bidding war. Most buyers in the market, I was just talking to somebody yesterday, they wrote 2 contracts and they were in bidding wars. I'm like, we got to get people out of the bidding war scenario, and we're way too reliant as an industry on MLS. So why don't we develop strategies? Why don't we go out and find them what they want? That requires us to have a deeper conversation with the buyer, ask them more questions on the front end, all of those possible things. So we developed a letter that you'll get a copy of called the Blue Ocean Letter. People were using it in 2021 when the marketplace was overheated. This marketplace has a lot of the same plays in it as 2021 did, right? Because we have no inventory. So we have to go find inventory. Here's a copy of the letter. You'll get a copy of this. This letter worked. And I really think that the only reason that it worked was the last line at the bottom. This is not a fishing expedition to try to secure listing, but actually have a buyer who loves your neighborhood, your street, your house, and I'm working hard to help them find their dream home and location. Give me a call if you're contemplating a sale. We had agents who used this letter literally across the country, receive phone calls from potential sellers. And here was the interesting part of this. And then we talk about injecting right into the marketplace. The interesting part of this was there was only one situation where the agent that sent the letter received a phone call from another agent saying, hey, my client got this letter. Do you really have a buyer? And in that scenario, the seller was actually their grandmother. In every other case, the seller went straight to the person that sent the letter. They saw no reason to go grab their agent and pull them back into the transaction if they had a real estate agent. So we know this letter works. It's a way to leverage buyers, okay? If your buyer approves of you doing this with the letter, include a copy of the pre-approval letter with their name blacked out, and you want them to get a pre-approval letter for the max they can afford, okay? You want this pre-approval letter to be the most that this person could possibly qualify for, because we want to show this potential seller, right, that we actually have a buyer. Here's documented proof, and they can spend up to X. We're not saying your house is worth that. This is just what they can spend. But if that tweaks your interest, call me. When you get a response, be prepared for them to say, do you really have a buyer? You're just trying to get listing? No, I really have a buyer. Are you thinking about selling? Yeah, why don't you just have your buyer drive by? No, let me tell you what. I have a buyer, we have a contract, we have a way that we do this. They want me to come out and look at every house before they see it because I made a promise to them I wouldn't waste their time. Is there a time I could come and look at your house and see if it's a fit? What does this do? Obviously, this makes your stock go way up with a buyer that you're actually trying to find them something. And B, is this a potential listing someday on down the road? We've at least identified a seller who is contemplating at some level selling their house. This is a leverage point. We got to always be thinking every day, who do I have? How do I leverage it? How do I leverage the listings? Do I circle prospect around my listings, right? Do I send mailers out for the open houses? The industry in and of itself, guys, is not going to do this because this is like work. And so many people get into real estate because they don't think it is work. And, you know, we tend to keep bringing them in. We brought in 13,500 new ones last month nationwide. But it's because they're looking at it as a side hustle, not the true professional, I'm lucky enough. That's the people I get to always work with. This can also be used with a potential seller. Okay, so someone says to you, hey, Wayne, I would sell my house, but where in the world would I go? Where would I go? But I'd sell my house if I knew where I would go. Well, hold on. Let me come out and talk to you. Let's get really dialed in on what you're looking for. I'll send this letter out to the neighborhood, see if I can find a seller. We got to start thinking more like a commercial realtor who does not have this massive MLS in front of them. You got to learn to put deals together. And it's the last thing. I know I'm way over, but guys, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I said this to one of my clients this week. I'm worried about the real estate industry. I'm worried about the individual agents in the field, quite honestly. There's so much money being played on you guys, and I'm worried about the sustainability of a lot of y'all's business models. And so that's why I'm so passionate about the things I talk about with you guys. Again, if it's that you don't want to do the work, okay, you don't want to do the work. But if you want to do it, but you're just not confident in it, I'm taking it as my personal responsibility to help build your confidence. The last thing is a proactive calendar. Once you've figured out which of these methods you may want to use, you got to have a proactive calendar. So what's a proactive calendar? It's everything that you'll be doing in the context of your business model unless something better shows up. We tend to, as an industry, have very reactive calendars. We leave big blocks of time open in case somebody calls. Well, the problem is when somebody calls, it's better than the nothing you had scheduled. And so you go do it, and then it's like, oh, yeah, I got out there. They already had an agent. I still don't understand that concept, how you would just go meet somebody at a house and then find out they had an agent who was out of town for the weekend. Anyway, I don't get it. I think you got to protect your time. Here's an example, which you'll get a copy of a perfect day, right? Possible perfect day. Don't pay any attention to the time frames. We all have a best time of day. We talked about that before. Put your most dollar productive things into your best time of day. If you're an evening person, you're an evening person. I'm an early morning person. Maybe you're a mid-afternoon, whatever. That's when you want to do your most dollar productive things. But we need to be scheduling our days out so that you have to fit people in or eliminate what you were going to do. One of my clients was on here, I was doing some of this morning. I was having to shuffle things around based on something that came up. And I was always playing this game of, I need to get this done, but I can only do it if other people have a bit of flexibility in their schedules. Other than that, I'm going to have to say no to this thing that I need to do tomorrow morning. So that's, to me, how you run your life. And I want everybody to run their life. I don't want us to be reactive. I think this marketplace has shown us that a lot of people have very reactive business models. And that's not sustainable. And it doesn't bring joy. And it doesn't lead to the long-term happiness as a real estate agent. It makes you want to get out of the business. And I hate that if you're really wanting to do this at a high level. The focus question: what's the one thing I could do today that by doing that thing would get me closest to my goal? Well, go do that, whatever it is. If you focus on doing the right stuff, you're unstoppable. Literally, you're unstoppable. But just knowing the right stuff to do and doing the right stuff, that's the work that we're trying to do with you guys, right? That's where we want to build your confidence up, show you the dynamics, show you the model, all the things that we talk about regularly. Always remember, the goal of any contact every day, all day, is to identify a potential client. It is not to try to turn everyone into clients. You do not have time to work with people who are not going to do something. Newer people to the industry, if you're newer and you're on here today, the mantra of the new person in the industry is, well, I'm new, I have time. I have time to go work with these people. No, you don't. You don't have time to work with people that aren't going to do anything. That's a habit that will be created, and it will be your detriment years later in the industry. And one last thing. The proactive agent's mantra is this: there was life before I got in contact with you today. I had things I was going to go do. Would you like some help? Would you like some help with whatever you're contemplating doing in the real estate business? Oh, if you'd like some help, well, here's how I would help you. Here's the materials I have, and here's those things. But oh, by the way, there will be life after you. Now, you don't say that to them, right? You don't say the first one and you don't say the last one, but you say the middle two. Would you like some help? Well, if you'd like some help, here's the way we would do it. But mentally, there was life before this phone call. There will be life after this phone call. If you can have that mindset, that mantra running through your head all the time, you'll be a proactive person. Guys, thanks so much. You can contact me anytime you want to, wayne@stfconsult.com or admin@stfconsult.com. Our next session is going to be recorded. I'm going to be traveling. But our next session on June the 28th, the divergence in our industry is simply this. People are going online. So we've got to maximize the Google reviews. We got to maximize Google business pages, because absent a great relationship with a realtor, people are going online. And we're going to try to give you somewhat of a tutorial on the things to watch for. And hopefully we're going to be able to show you a way to set those things up. Okay, so that'll be recorded. Guys, thank you so much. I know we're way over. I apologize for that. Thanks for hanging in. Very few people left, which is awesome. Have a great day. And I guess I should ask, as always, do you guys have any questions before we go?
If you have any questions, you're welcome to submit those to the chat of the Q&A, or you can raise your hand and you're welcome to ask your question yourself.
Seeing none, we'll close, but I'm going to leave you with one thought. Time does not make you a successful real estate agent. Mindset does. Have the right mindset and you're unstoppable. Okay, that's my closing thought. Have a great day, guys. Thanks for sticking with me. Appreciate y'all. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.